we are live now, and so I will make the post on PWS, which is out now. So the post on PWS is out, and I will also annoy people by reblogging.
Wait, it's not on there. Hold on.
It is on. It is on.
Wait, I don't see it.
I will reblog it to my blog. So we are live now.
It's not it. No, it's not showing up at Photos Worth Seeing.
It is. It is.
No.
I see it. I'm on the blog.
I don't see it.
It is on there.
Yeah, I am too. This website, yes, got it. Cookies. Okay, fine. Be greedy. No, it's not showing up. Anyway, is it on yours?
You can reblog it from
I see it.
Okay, hold on.
TVoom.
Is it on TVoom?
It is on TVoom as well. Well, the tech crap seems to continue. For those of you who are already on the video or watching already, we had some major technical problems.
Good grief, they're not showing up. What the hell?
Are you in a Mac? Try holding down the Option key and press F5.
No. It's fine. It's showing up now.
Okay, you reblogged it?
Not yet. Hold on. How do I get this thing to?
We're already streaming, but Fern, as usual, has. In case someone is already watching, we're gonna start in.
Go.
Okay, Fern says go. So let's start the stream or the show.
Yes.
Hello and welcome to In Conversation 12 on November 25th, 2017. My name is Pete. I like pictures, as you know. And as usual, as well with me, my close friend, even though he hates to admit that, Dr. Fern. And we have a guest tonight, depending on when you watch this, Milmon F. Harrison, Milmon Tumblr. You will find this the link in the description, of course, like all links that we're going to mention in this video. So as you all know, of course, Fern is also admin for luxlit.net and luxlit.tumblr.com and
.net. Yeah. Oh, that's true.
And yours truly, I'm one of the admins of Photos Worth Seeing, also on Tumblr. And we have a packed episode with a very, very charged topic, I guess. And I really think it's a charged topic. So we didn't even think about announcing a second or third topic, because I think we're going to talk about this topic for a while. So Fern, would you want to tell us what the topic is, because it was your idea?
Well, first let me introduce Milmon.
Yes, please.
A little more about Milmon. And sorry, Milmon, but I have to do this. So I've known, well, first of all, sorry, Milmon, because you have known me for 16 years. And 15 years, and you worked with me for like 5 years. So that, as my boss. So pretty much that's like, he's done his charity work too.
Yeah, I'm still here.
So Milmon is a professor at UC Davis. I was his teaching assistant for about 4 years out of the 7 years that I was a teaching assistant. I also taught one of his courses during the summer. I also called him up one summer when he was in Hawaii and it was 3 o'clock in the morning, freaking out because nobody was in class and I had the date wrong. I'll never forget that one. Milmon is an amazing professor. He has a background in sociology, qualitative sociology, but also a background in media literacy, media critique, and media analysis. And a lot of it is especially video and film and images. So in a sense, that was one of the reasons why we've, worked really well together. He also, I want to say, well, actually, for when what is it, Second Life? Was it
Mm-hmm.
Second Life? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
When Second Life got started, he became really interested in it. He started to use his artistic talents to create some of the characters. One of the characters I remember was a beautiful African American woman who became a model that people were actually paying you to use. And then about 3-4 years ago, he started working on even more on his artistic talents, and he does great web design, incredible video work that he's doing, and he's teaching a course on that now. And also photography. Yeah, that was about two and a half, 3 years ago. He's a bit of a gearhead. How many cameras do you own now?
I only have 2.
Oh,
And
2. I thought you had 3.
No, I only have 3 lenses because I can't
Oh.
afford a lot of stuff.
So he's a one of those I can't afford this stuff gearhead, but if he had money, he would be.
Then you need a secret Santa like I had.
Yes.
Who sends you lenses. Just
Yeah.
so.
So anyway, yeah, that's pretty much the whole thing about Milmon, and we still get together quite often. Our conversations, sometimes I don't know how we haven't gotten arrested or had our asses kicked, because some of our conversations get really deep in all kinds of topics that make people uncomfortable. But also a lot about photography and art and the media and the visual media. So he comes in a sense like I come to photography from that background, but also he's more of the technical and in a lot of ways. And he's done the 365 challenge, and he's always looking at the measurements of stuff and how do I tweak this, and I'm like, dude, I just take the picture. So yes, that's Milmon Harrison.
Can I say one thing?
Sure.
Completely unrelated to that all. Everyone who watched this video right now live, you are of course invited to join us on the chat. We are on the chat on YouTube. You have to use the YouTube link, and as far as I know, this only works on the browser. But you can also communicate with us on Tumblr, of course, by sending us messages, by sending us questions, suggestions, while we are live to our blogs. That is QBN-Scholar for Fern. Of course, also, I don't know if you're at the moment on Tumblr, Milmon. So of course, also to Milmon, the link is Milmon Tumblr. The URL is in the post on Photos Worth Seeing, and of course, you can also message me on TVOOM, TVOOM. So that having said, we're on the chat. We will watch the messages on Tumblr in case there are some. We cannot watch comments or replies to the posts that we made on Tumblr. I tried that in past conversations. That just messes everything up. So if you want to comment on that, please do that, and please don't hesitate to comment on the chat on YouTube or by sending us direct messages via the Tumblr Messenger. With that having said, will you please introduce our topic today, Fern?
All right, so Ted Forbes, I posted this about a year ago, I want to say. I think it's a little older, but not by much. For those of you who don't know Ted Forbes, I think we both have posted on Luxlit and on the Art of Photography. Let's Talk.
Let's Talk Photography is the blog.
Yes.
And
actually, as I'm sure many of you have noticed, a lot of the stuff that gets on Luxlit winds up on Let's Talk Photography and vice versa. So Ted Forbes, the Art of Photography YouTube channel, and he has other things. He has a Facebook page and so on. Amazing, I have to say, because he covers everything from the emotional critiquing stuff and talking about photography and the personal side of it, to the artist series, to photo assignments, to every once in a while equipment critiques, and sometimes it's just about him and his life. And he's a fascinating guy. Anyway, he posted a video. No one cares. Nobody cares about your photography. And it was fascinating to me because by the time I listened to the whole thing, I was fascinated. So I posted it, had some few reactions. The reactions and comments on his YouTube post were amazing. And then just a couple of days ago, David duChemin, who's actually someone that Milmon recommended to me a while back, and I'm finally beginning to follow this guy and will probably order one or two of his books, had a response to that Ted Forbes video, discussing the same idea of, is it true that nobody cares about your photography, and what about photography? Does it have a place? Blah, blah, blah. And again, so I just figured this was something we might want to talk about, because Pete told me he has strong opinions, and I know Milmon. Actually, I have the funny feeling today this is all the talking I'm going to do for the rest, because you two are yeah. So anyway, that's it.
Maybe one thing the links to the videos will be in the description, both on Tumblr later and also on YouTube. So if you want to watch the videos, but I don't think it's really necessary having watched the videos, because we want to talk about what we think about that subject. Of course, we will refer to the videos. But yeah, I personally do have very strong opinions about both of these videos and about the topic. But Milmon is our guest. Milmon, do you want to start, whether talking about the videos themselves, you watch them as well, or about the topic? Nobody cares about your photography. Do you have the feeling that nobody cares about your photography?
I have seen the Ted Forbes video, and I actually, I don't remember if I have seen, especially if it's recent, the response to it by David duChemin. But I think what I take away from both of them, knowing what I do of their work, is that we're inundated with images, and we're inundated with good images, and so technically good images. And so that whole conversation about nobody cares about your photography it raises two issues for me. First of all, one of the things that I look for in my photography is not just a super sharp and super clear and super technically a model of technical expertise, but I look for emotional. My photography, to me, is two things, and it's an expression of emotion, and it's an expression of a thought, or it's an expression of I want my photography to. I want those who see my photography to feel what I felt at that moment when I took it. And so the answer that I always come to about the question of nobody cares about your photography is that that's fine. I care about my photography, and I care about what it is and how I can touch somebody else with my photography. There, some of my favorite photographs that I have taken and that I've seen others do, they have flaws, just like humans do. They're not always technically perfect, but there's something about that moment. And for some of the pictures, it could be the juxtaposition of color. Some of others, it's about the interplay of shadow. Some, it's because it was in black and white and it did something different than when I first saw it, that I didn't expect when I first saw it in color. So there's a second thing about this conversation about nobody cares about your photography, is that we have now the possibility of sharing our photographs online in places like Tumblr and Flickr and wherever else, and Instagram. And this is a problem and a struggle that I have, because a lot of times some of the pieces or some of the photographs that I really like, that have really moved me, that I've created and others created, they don't have as many likes as something that I think is, I've seen, I hate to, well, I've seen a lot of sunset pictures, and I always go, gosh, we all agree that sunsets are really beautiful. And so, okay. And again, not to knock anybody else, but if I'm going to I feel like if I'm going to take a sunset picture, there has to be something more about it than just a beautiful sunset. So it gets to the motivation. For me, this conversation gets to my motivation for why I do what I do. And this whole sense of nobody likes my picture, so I should just stop, or I'm a failure, or I'm not successful on Tumblr or Flickr or whatever else. So there's a couple of different issues to me, is that I have to care about my photograph. And then secondly, if I don't have that many likes, oh well, that's not why I'm doing it. So I'll stop there and talk later, maybe.
Me, okay. I have one big. We talked about that briefly before we started the stream. I really liked the video by, and I forgot the name, duChemin.
duChemin.
duChemin. I really liked the video by duChemin, because he really brought up some I love how we put that we and in terms of kind of sort of the first generation, even though there are many generations already using the internet and really using it like we do as a way of communicating, that there seems to be a trend away from being creators of art and more towards creators of content. So that's something that I see, of course. I mean, checking the photography that is posted on Tumblr every day, and also especially with my own photography, there definitely I saw that trend with me as well, seeing, okay, I have to post. I didn't post yesterday, and I have to post today, and maybe even two, so that I can keep up with my. And it's rather about creating content than really creating pictures. Sometimes I can only speak about myself, and I have that feeling often when I scroll down my dash on Tumblr, or when I check the tags. So that is really something that kind of and that, it was funny that he started his video saying that the claim that nobody cares about my photography made him a bit defensive. That is how he started the video. And so he saying that we are rather content creators than creators of art made me kind of defensive, because the first thing that I said for myself was, yeah, but that's why I have a blog, to force myself to do something. But there's the point, doing something and not doing something in particular. So that is one thing. And I really liked how he got to the point of that is the issue that I have with Ted Forbes' video about, because Ted Forbes shared that story of his friend not posting his photography online because this friend said, nobody cares about my photography anyway. And then Forbes kind of, and I don't see the point, I see the point. I agree with what Ted Forbes said in the video. I agree with everything, but I think he completely missed the point, because he talked about, we need to create art that matters. We need to create something that matters, and that is not the point. because and on the other hand, it's kind of the most counterproductive thing to tell someone who says, I don't show my stuff because nobody cares anyway, to tell them, well, we need to create art that matters, without lending them a hand to say, hey, okay, I can show you ways, or this would be a way how you can have at least the feeling that your work matters. And I think that is the point that you made, Milman, which is absolutely, and I think that is the only thing that really matters. Does what we do matter for us? My photos that I post, and there's another thing that I became defensive about in the second video, was when he didn't really rant about, but of course I felt kind of a bit uncomfortable when he talked about, well, sharing of pretty pictures. I mean, most of the photos that I post to my blog are pretty pictures, right? There's not really something. I wouldn't consider my photos to be necessarily to be art. These are most of the time pretty pictures.
Yeah.
I have no
Yes.
problem with that. But
Yes and no. Wait. I want to stop you there, because, and I've done this before. Yes and no. I think your landscapes are more mainstream images, but that does not mean they're not art. That's number one. Number two, you always sort of you shit on your side Tumblr. Let's call it what it is. And your side Tumblr is full of really awesome work that is not mainstream. A lot of it is not mainstream, and I would also consider that art. So let me be the one who insults you in your work and beats up on you. You need to face up to the fact that you are a great photographer, and that you do post both very compelling mainstream and more experimental, however you want to call it, images that are both, I would consider art. And my opinion always
matters. Yeah, no. Thank you kindly. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. But in case it came across that I put myself down or something, no, I don't. I only post what I like, and I have, to each and every of my photos, a very, very strong connection. And I made lately, I kind of I checked how many posts I made, and there are, I don't know, a couple of thousand photos on my blog, and there may be a handful of photos on that blog that I say, yeah, I just posted them because I had nothing else. So every photo that I posted there, and if you ever watched any of my videos that I post to my YouTube, I think you have kind of at least a hunch of how much work I put in my photos. So I don't do that just because I do that because I like that. It's, for me, it's rather the fact that I don't care for making art or not art. That is not what is important for me. What is important for me is that I make a picture that I like, and whether this is considered to be art or not. And that's what I think it was in the conversation we had with Billy Monday, when Billy Monday asked us, do you think you're an artist? And when I said, I'm a guy who does things that sometimes turn out to be art. So yes, I probably have to call myself an artist, but I would call myself to be a pragmatist, because I do things that I like, and if people like them, I'm happy. If they don't like them, and that might sound harsh, then I don't really care. Because if they tell me, hey, if you do this, then your photo would be more effective, or your message, or what is your message in the photo? And I don't say that my photos don't have a message. I try to give each and every of these photos a message in this or that way. So if someone tells me that, well, I don't like it because the message doesn't come across, or if you do this, I would love to have these conversations. But if someone says not my cup of tea, I can very well live with that, and don't mind, right? So that's the point. I do what I like, and nothing more, nothing less. And if it's art, awesome. If not, I don't really care.
So one of the things that struck me about Ted Forbes' video, and yeah, so I disagree. I mean, I don't disagree, but I saw his video a little differently, because one of the things he said, and I remember this almost verbatim, was, we create art that matters, but that doesn't have to be just with deep meaning. It could even be something pretty, something that's beautiful matters. Now, granted, he didn't keep hammering that home, and then he went off and discussed, the work that matters, blah blah blah. But the bottom line, to me, that's what made it fascinating. That he pretty much said, and he also pretty much said, if it moves you, that's fine. I will say I did actually, I was a little bothered by duChemin's video. duChemin's. I don't know. However, it's
That's
French.
how
It's
he
almost
says
like
it.
English. Oh,
Yeah.
duChemin. Okay, so duChemin. That's right. So because I thought for a while there he was very negative about the people who do post the images for whatever, and it sounded like, heaven help me, like an old man, these kids, blah blah blah, and it's like,
Excuse me,
you
Fern.
know,
Can I chime in here? That exactly is what I meant. That I became kind of defensive in the first place
yes,
because I post pretty pictures. My pictures have kind of, well, some of them, many of them have kind of are kind of well liked. They have a lot of notes. And so I thought, hey, okay, what is it? What do you want to say to me? It's just because people with pretty pictures are more successful, or what is success anyway, and just because
yes.
I have more. So, and then I realized, and that's what I think he did great, and I don't want to cut you off or something. I really loved how he explained that later, because he said there's nothing wrong with pretty pictures, but we should strive for more. And that
Well,
is
and they both said that. They
fun.
both said that. They
Yeah,
both said that
Yeah.
they pretty much both said the same thing, which I thought was fascinating. But what I thought was also interesting was that duChemin was upset by Ted Forbes, and that in a sense you were upset by duChemin. Now you listened and eventually got it. And to me, and I think he listened and eventually got it as well. Uh, I have to say I wasn't bothered because I could see that side of it. And maybe a part of it is because, yes, sometimes I create images that are popular. I've been on Tumblr radar, and I get, I have never ever, and I'm not saying it with pride, although it's a very good feeling, I have to say. I've never submitted anything to a reblog site ever, and yet I got reblogged by LensBlur, like what, 5-6 years ago, and that's how I discovered the reblog sites when they were starting, and eventually got into it. But my photography is, for some reason, popular sometimes with people who are into photography, and so that brings me to the thing that I don't think either one of them talked about. And this whole idea of I do it for myself. And again, it doesn't bother me, but it makes me think. There are people on Tumblr who do the photography for themselves, who post images that are awesome, that are amazing. They have maybe one or two notes. They get reblogged. They don't even say, they don't even acknowledge it. It's obvious that they don't care. They just keep doing what they do. Yet their images communicate something about themselves, about their life, and I think that's the important part of it. I think that communication. Um, of our images and whatever it is that we're trying to say, even if it's just, oh, look at how pretty this is crucial. And I think that feedback every so often, depending on the feedback, if it's just the feedback, you know, here's the heart, here's the you know, oh, that's a cool photograph, bro or sis or whatever, that's great. But I mean, and it helps me figure out where I am, and it helps me, but 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 and sometimes even, yes, if it's just the likes, does sometimes help me. And again, I'm not saying this about anybody else, sort of sort of what you were saying, Pete, you know, that you learn about your photography. And again, it's such a broad spectrum when we talk about photography, and I'm not just photography, but I think anything that's creative, because some people do it because they have a talent and they like to draw you know, a straight line with some pretty colors on both sides, and it always looks cool to them, and that's fine, and they've been doing the same thing for 20 years. And others are more into experimenting and being academic about it. You know, there's so many different ways of approaching creativity and of producing creative product, that to me, the question, and the comment by Forbes and then by duChemin, the conversation is crucial, because there's so much of ourselves tied up into all of this creativity thing. And then if we think of ourselves as an artist, there's what I think of as the ¿cómo se llama? The one who cut his ear off.
Van Gogh.
Yeah, so there's the whole Van Gogh, you know, oh, isn't it lovely? He went crazy for his art and artists. It's like, fuck that. You know, I'm depressed and suicide. Huh?
It's not even true.
Well,
there's that.
See, I don't know enough, and I do want to explore. Go ahead.
Well, I want to come back about this conversation too, because of what I think about when I listen to it. And again, I listen to a lot more of both Ted Forbes and David duChemin, and I have a couple of David duChemin's books, so I kind of understand that this conversation in a broader context of what he's all about. What arises for me in the conversation is questions of audience, who our perceived audience is. There, you know, some of the people that are, you know, for example, on Flickr, because Flickr is where I started, some of them are professional photographers. So of course they know how to work their camera better than I do. As of this month or next month, I've had a I've had a camera for 3 years. I am a noob. I am a baby. And so I don't see myself as competing with people who've been doing this for a very, very long time. That I'm not even in the same race with them. And at the same time, what I take from duChemin and Ted Forbes is that if you are playing to the Tumblr and the Flickr and it's Instagram, and if you're playing to a social media audience, there are you can learn to create work that works that system. You can soon at some point learn that sunset pictures or cat pictures or whatever, I'm just picking things, you know, that those things are going to get a lot of likes, and so you can start working that system, and you can stay in that loop, and it becomes a really good and affirming feedback loop for you, because you know what works. And I think what I take away from both of them is that, and the thing that makes me, and like I said, I'm subscribed to both of their channels, and what I really like most about duChemin's perspective, that is that even as a professional photographer, his website is called Craft and Vision. I like his emphasis that what is his tagline is, gear is good, but vision is better. And so that's why I started following him immediately, because the books that I have, including his, the things that I tend to read the most are much more about developing your vision. Of course, you also need to learn the rules of composition and some of the technical things. I think you do need to learn that for anything, especially if you're going to break them. So, you kind of need to know what they are. And as a teacher, we all agree on that sort of thing. But at the end of the day, you can get yourself into a loop where you can just work the system, and you know what you're going to get. If I push this button, I'm going to get a lot. And if that's what you're in it for, that's fine. And if that's what you want out of your work, that's fine. But to me, it feels like teaching to the test, to use our from our vernacular, versus taking a chance and saying, I want to try something else. And so that's kind of the issue of audience, and the fact that we're not all at the same level. Some of us are learning, and we do learn, but some of the comments are like, wow, or nice photo, dude, and that sort of thing. And it's like, that's not really telling me, or there's the crickets of silence. So you don't know, is it that nobody and then, is it that nobody liked it because it's different? Is it that people like it, but they just didn't hit the love button? Or is there something technically wrong from this? I don't know. I have no idea. And then 6 months later, then my phone starts blowing up because it's become reblogged. And so I'm just kind of like, I don't even understand all this system. But I early realized that what people like or don't like of what I do, that's about them, and it's not about me. And that's why at the end of the day, and I have to say this one last thing too, in response to what Pete said earlier, is that it's kind of the reason thing is why I haven't posted anything in a couple of months, because I felt like some things were getting away from me. This need to, when I established to continue doing the 365 project, and I realized that I was getting tired, and I wasn't feeling the spark of creativity and joy. And Ted Forbes has one of his videos is in response to someone who's a beginner asking, what is the best piece of information you can give? And he was saying that when you're a professional, you have to produce whether you like it or not, whether you feel like it or not. And that what you must not lose is the joy of why you started in the first place. And so both of these conversations come back to that for me, that, you have to hold on to what this means for you, and that you're not just, doing what you do for applause from others, because then the motivation becomes external rather than feeding your soul. So, yeah.
That's an interesting thing that you said with the 365 days projects. I started my 300. That's how my other blog started. That's why it's called T-Boom 365, because it started as a 365 days project, and I did that for like, I don't know, 40 days, 50 days, that I took one photo a day, and then it was just taking photos for that blog. It wasn't about
Yes.
taking a photo anymore or making a photo. And so often, because I have pretty weird working times, I work in the evenings usually, except for Saturday. I work in the mornings and Saturday, so I can do that. And so often I came home shortly before midnight, sat on the couch, and oh shit, I have to take a photo.
Yeah.
I ran around and just took some. I mean, they're still all on there. So the first, I don't know, 30, 40, 50 photos. And I asked myself, why am I doing that? What is the motivation? Why would I take a photo just for taking a photo? And I see there are a couple of 365 days projects on Tumblr, photography projects, And I see that with many of these blogs. It is a fascinating idea to do that. And if you have, I don't say don't do it. No, no way.
It's useful.
It's definitely useful. And that's why I have a blog, to kind of force me to do things. It's the same with my photography blog and with my writing blog. And I started drawing again. So if you look closer, you will probably find my drawings on Tumblr as well somewhere. But that's the thing. I do it for me. And I also stopped doing the 365 drawing challenge, because it's just, and I realize I'm just doodling stuff because, not because to make that check the day, not for the for because of the joy of drawing. And I realized the same thing with T-Voom. I could post on T-Voom every day 3 photos if I wanted to. My catalog consists now of about 60,000 shots, so I could put that, fill the queue for the next 2-3 years and sit down. But that's not what it's about for me. I want to, and I have. You saw that, Fern, when we made this video about the we made a video once about the selection process. And well, I come home with like 20, 30, 40 photos, sometimes just 3, sometimes 100, whatever. And sometimes there are like 10 of these photos that I like, that I think, yeah, that I would post that. But if I don't feel like posting, if I don't feel like I want to post that photo today, then I won't do it. And that is for me, that is just, again, just for me, that is for me way more liberating than and has become way more effective in learning for me, because I started to focus on what I like. It was important to start that as a daily thing, definitely, to get into gear, to learn a lot about workflow. How can I work fast and precise? And so everything that I did back then, I benefit from that today. But now it's about other things for me, and that's also, I think we have to embrace the change, not only the change in our photography, but also the change in ourselves, the change how we approach things, because that is us. This are we. And so Fern always kicks me, usually in private conversation. Well, you have to promote your other photography blog more. No, I don't promote it. It's out there. There's a link on my blog. Sometimes I get reblogs, so people, I tag my photos, so if you look for photos, then you will eventually stumble over my blog. And if my photos don't blow you away, that you want to check out the blog and then instantly follow, then don't. And if it does, great. And if you say, well, I will check out the blog and follow it for a while, and if it posts just crap, then I will unfollow. This is fine for me. I'm interested in people who like what I do, and then maybe get in contact with me and we can have a chat about photography. And that's the same way in return. I only follow blogs that interest me. That doesn't mean that this photography is necessarily much better than blogs that I don't follow. It's just my personal taste, and this is the way I see I can grow through that. And sometimes it's, there we back at beauty again, sometimes it's just beautiful photography, which is, and if we look at also what I loved about the video, of the second video, I think it was the second video, if we look in, that was the example in the video, if we look into the Sistine Chapel, and I was fortunate enough having seen it with my own eyes, so that's one thing. Nobody ever on this planet saw the floor of the Sistine Chapel, because everyone is just looking up. Nobody knows how it looks like. It is an amazing thing, and it is absolutely beautiful. And that is because this guy was not only a genius in terms of composition and stuff, but he was able to produce beauty, and beauty definitely is also art.
Yeah.
So,
Can I say one thing real quick, Fernando? Real quick, I'm sorry.
Of course.
Pete, this is important what you said a few minutes ago, and I think it's gets back to what I was saying about I think it's okay for us to make it okay for us to grow out of certain things. I will never be. I tend to not like pronouncements, and I realize that people do it sometimes to be provocative and to get you to watch their video. But to say that this is, don't ever do this or don't ever do that, and the 365-day project really allowed me to learn how to use my camera in a really steady, fast way. It also allowed me to get over my fear of sharing creative work with strangers. It had a lot of purposes. It also taught me how to, on and on and on. There were benefits, but at the same time, it's okay to say that it's not, I need to move on. I'm in a different place from that. And that's fine. Like you just said, that's about my internal change. It has nothing to do with the 365-day concept. And unfortunately, so often in social media and whatever, it's either you love something and it's the greatest thing ever, or it's terrible. And it's like, come on, that's not the conversation that we're having. So I think that was the thing that I've discovered just in the last 2 months, and feeling like posting every day has become another job, and it became stressful. And the other thing that I'm starting to feel, because I have some pictures that I have made in that time, but I'm just not ready to share them. And I'm not going to until I want to. And so the other thing that I'm noticing now is that I don't feel the need to take a picture of everything. And it's taken me a while to get to that place, so that I take 1,000 pictures so that I can be sure that there's something good. And maybe I can, what I'm kind of going back to in terms of that meditative kind of thing that I started with, is that I want to wait for the moment, and I want to wait for the picture, and I want to wait for what I want to wait for to make the picture that I want to make. And I'm just even saying this, and then having listened to what you just said, I kind of realized that I need to tell myself today that it's okay that I have moved on from that, instead of feeling guilty that I haven't posted in 2 months. Right. And my 365-day project only has 60 days. But it's fine, and that's what it is. And so thank you, Pete.
So I first of all, I wanted to say, Pete, I love that you're.
Please,
go ahead.
I have to, because we completely ignored.
I told you I wouldn't be talking much.
We forgot the people.
We have to say hello to all the people in the chat. And I see Steffi, Ramona, Heiko, Heterotopian, Amy Montico is on the chat. Krina Prida is on the chat. Tamara Cavalau. No, I'm sorry that I pronounced it wrong. Cavalu. Please excuse that I definitely pronounced your name wrong. Welcome on the chat, and thank you for watching. It's really it's a blast for us. So please excuse Fern, but I wanted to do that all of the time already.
No problem. So I wanted to say, first of all, Pete, please, more images, less talking. Actually, even the talking, less Genesis, please.
I didn't say one word of Genesis. I was.
No. I mean, on your
showing my tattoo in the camera. I know that, but that's not. It's a word. Yes, right.
The 80s died. They were reborn. They died again. Please, let's just let them go. Listen to some Robin. Listen to some Licky Lee. Listen to some. Anyway.
So Fern is now muted by me. So it's so possible, right? I can do that because I start to scream. So how can I unmute you? Oh, I think it's not possible. Darn. Can you unmute yourself?
Oh,
No, not you're back. I'm sorry. That was just a joke. No, I muted you again. How can I unmute you? Oops. How is
anything.
Okay,
There we go.
now
Can you hear me now? Yeah, I can see that.
I'm sorry. No, I'm not
So,
sorry.
no. So there's two things that I was thinking about.
Heiko wrote in the chat, the 80s are back, Fern. And if I look at you, yes, they are back. How old are you?
80, yes. Might as well be. Yeah. So anyway, what was I going to say? So there's two things. One of them, going back to what both of you were talking about, and the knowing yourself is also the exploring of what kind of photographer am I? And sometimes taking the risk or doing something, and I've talked about this before when I went to my niece's quinceañera, her 15th birthday, which is like a big party and blah blah blah, and it's catered and it's big, the gowns and everything, and there was the event photographer with the belt and the two cameras with the 300 or 400 zoom and the other camera, and it's all connected to projector, and I'm sitting there going, there is no way in hell I can ever do this. And I was taking some photos, some of them. My sister actually said, God bless her, if I knew you were this good, I'd have hired you. And it's like, no, I can't do it. I can't. It's just not. I was doing what you both said and what both of the gentlemen on the video said. I was doing what I was enjoying, taking pictures of what attracted my attention, as opposed to doing what that guy was doing, which was taking pictures of everything, and then a few of the good ones come out. Nothing wrong with that. That's the way it works. By the way, and I think I've mentioned this before, we need to think about the fact that sometimes we will shoot, and we will shoot 400 photos. I've never shot that much, but I have had experiences a couple of times where I've shot 100 to 200 photos, and all of them suck shit through a brick. And I'm okay with that, because I remember, and I posted this on Luxlit. I remember Richard Avedon it did a presentation for San Francisco Museum of Modern Art, and he was talking about his American West portrait project, the black and white images that I got anyway. And he finally knew when it was time to end, and this goes to Milmon's point, when he was in Texas and he took pictures for 2 weeks, and none of them, in his mind, none of them were any good. Now, Richard Avedon taking photographs for 2 weeks and not creating anything he liked. Please, that means I can go out and shoot, 200 pictures, and they're going to suck shit. That's fine, because you know what? Richard Avedon, you know what I mean? So there's that. So there's knowing, I think, and being comfortable and accepting what kind of photographer we are. And sometimes, and this is my issue, and I'm going to go into my issue. I know I have a style. I know I kind of, because sometimes I'll veer from that style. But I don't really, I mean, I shoot flowers, I shoot plant life, I shoot portraits. I love to do street portraits and documentary photography, and I love architecture, specifically urban geometry. And sometimes just a picture of my glasses, like for the 7-day challenge for Facebook. And I keep hearing you should be, you have to find your niche. Well, I have niches, and I'm okay with that. I would need to have 4 separate or 5 separate tumblers to be able to really, you know what I mean, to satisfy everything that I like to do. So there's that, but I think listening to people like Forbes and like duChemin, because duChemin's point, and Ted Forbes has also talked about this, I have to say, is that so many of us, and I will admit this is a little disheartening even here. We have so many people who are into photography, and yet usually the conversations are usually about gear and all, you know, and we don't even go into the critiquing as much as we should, or in doing the challenges, which I think are a lovely thing. Personally, I have no creativity. I never think of anything for any of the challenges, so I just don't bother anymore. It doesn't bother me. But I think it's all in that conversation, and I think we are more into the content production, more into the gear, more into all this stuff, instead of doing the human contact part of it, which is really what our images are about when you really think about this.
Amy posted something wonderful on the chat. She wrote, if there's no joy in what you're doing, why do it? Some days there's no joy in taking photos, and I have to remind myself it's okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, and so yes, so there's the joy thing, and here's the thing, and I know we've talked about it. We have to talk about it more in depth. The whole idea of creativity and keeping that joy. And I think I've talked about this before, and I know I've told you, Milman, about the book How to Write a Lot by Raul Sylvia. And it's about writing, but it's the same principles, although I'm not as organized as he recommends we should be. But I do photography almost every single day. Do I take pictures every single day? No, I haven't shot a photo in a week. There have been times when I went out and used the camera once or twice in a month or more. There was the time when my lens broke, when I didn't take a picture for, I think, like 2.5 months. But I do photography every day. LuxLit. I go through my own images. I go through the dashboard. I will sometimes go back and edit my own images. Plus, I have buttloads of pictures I still need to go through. And I'm also learning about photography. I'm also, and to me, all of that. And Raul Sylvia, God bless him, brings this up about the writing. It's not the writing. It's the writing, it's organizing your desk, it's doing the research about what you're reading, it's reading other stuff just to get inspired, it's sometimes just going out and taking notes or taking a walk, because you know everything that's associated to that. And so I haven't had, I have to admit, in like 2 years, I haven't had, or maybe even, well, no, in about 1.5 to 2 years, I haven't really had the issue of, oh my God, my creative. First of all, because I know I'm not creative. And secondly, because I see things differently. I'm not creative. Which is part of my creativity, and I get that. But I also do photography every day, and it helps me learn. And also, and Pete and I have talked about this, and again, it's great that you're here, Milman, because the other visual arts, or even writing, or anything that's creative, can sometimes inspire our photography.
Yeah.
And sometimes in ways that we don't know.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So well, yeah, that's.
I just finished a similar to what you're talking about. Also, Fernando, you recommended to me The War of Art, and then I have just finished a 12-week faculty success program that was all about writing, and that one of the things that we had to commit to do was to write for 30 minutes, at least 30 minutes every day, every weekday, and it's a really important and subtle shift, because what I found out was, in over a 12-week period of writing, and sometimes I only wrote for 30 minutes, I have created a huge body of writing in the last 3 months. And it was about shifting my perspective from, I needed to be what they call a binge writer. I need 5 hours or 8 hours of uninterrupted time so I can get into my flow and all this other stuff, which are instances of resistance, because if you don't have that time, you don't sit there and do anything at all. But what's become really interesting to me was, for example, I had to teach my class the other day, and I had less than a half hour to get before I had to leave. So instead of sitting there looking at Facebook for 20 minutes and then running to class, I hit the timer and I wrote for 15 minutes. And then I wrote for another 5 minutes. And then I did have to run to class. But the writing as thinking is another. It's the analog for me is photography as meditation, right? It's not just about the product. It's about what the process does for me and in what it does for me and the next thing that I went to do. So when I did that 20 minutes of writing, and then I went to my class to lecture on that same topic, I was doing the writing for my research, but I was able to share these insights with my students that I had just kind of put together in that 20 minutes because that's all the time I had. And after the class, I hit the timer for another 15 minutes to finish it off, right? But here's something, I have never worked this way. I've always needed, like, if I can't shoot, if I don't have all day to write, or if I don't have all day to take pictures and develop them, and then I'm not going to do it at all today. And so I think a lot of these kinds of things, one of the things when I went to design school, the one thing that I took away from that is that, again, it's not only about the finished product, it is about the process, and that we have to learn to value process and to learn to, and again, that's why I like meditation, because again, it's not about what the finished product is or what the end product is, but it is about a process of slowing down and being with whatever you're with at the moment. So
it is, yeah. It's the very spiritual. I have to say, I think it was. Oh wait, am I talking? Yeah, it was Matt of Cathartic Experience.
Question. When are you not talking? That is my question.
No, not today, Boop. Not today, baby. No, not today. I think no. Roll it back. Relax. Not today. Not today. No. But anyway, no. What was I going to say? Oh, so Matt at Cathartic of Cathartic Experience, he wrote something about that, and it's funny because I was thinking along the same lines of the and what you just said, the spirituality, and I would argue that the spirituality of the writing as well.
Yeah.
Because there is, but again, you're and I'm going to say this. Not, I don't need a job from you anymore, so it's not like I'm blowing smoke up any of your orifices to get a job. You know, oh God, you need a TA next quarter, please pick me. But I've read your book, and you're a great writer. You know what I mean? And also, your wife is also a great writer. So you have surrounded yourself in an artistic environment, like I would argue Pete has. For example, Pete, I mean, his job, even though it's video, it's still visual, and your horrible tastes in music. You know what I mean? You surround yourself, and I think that's it. You know what I mean?
Again.
that it's not necessarily even thinking of it as a spiritual thing, but it's the joy. I'm going to come out of the spiritual closet, and I think I've posted this before. But one of the things that I say during my morning ritual is, "How are you going to surprise me today?" And I learned that. I'm getting. You know, I have to cry at all of these, and I'm headed there. Robin Roberts from Good Morning America, when she had the cancer issues that she was dealing with, and India Irie asked her to, let's compose a song, and what's something important to you? And she said, well, every morning I wake up and I ask myself, how is life going to surprise me today? And I've been doing that ever since. That's part of my prayers, and it's part of my and photography and writing and film. I was just watching, can't remember what it was the other day that I watched. Several films, because I watch a lot of movies that inspire me in ways that may not even affect my photography, but they make me think about the images and about the creativity, and I think that's what we need to going back to the whole question of the joy. And you know what? Some days you're not going to have that joy, and that's, I think, the other thing. It's absolutely okay to have bad days, weeks, or months. It, enjoy that, revel in that low period of your life, because you're still going to be learning something. Because all three of us and all of the people listening and anybody else who will watch, even the very fact that they're interested, I sound like Pema Chodron talking about spirituality and some of these other folks, even the fact that you're interested in listening to this stuff is an indication that there is something deep inside you that calls you to do that kind of creative work. I honestly don't worry. To be honest with you, I think that's been one of the great things. And again, it's because of my spiritual, mostly Buddhist now, work that I do. It's that I'm just learning, you know what? Today I think Pete's a butthead. Oh, well.
You have to deal
Oh, well.
so.
Well, that won't ever pass. But so anyway, yes.
Well, can I? Oh, go ahead, Pete. I'm sorry.
No, please.
Oh, I was just going to say that one of the things that I think about a lot too is that, I wanted to, again, this period where right now I'm kind of in a lull. I felt like I wanted to go back to beginner's mind. I wanted to just stop all the madness and stop all the frantic, the frenzy about I have to post, I have to go take my picture today, to just stop and then come back and when I wanted to. And the other piece about it is some years ago I did a marathon, and if you really want to get an experience that's all about process, try training for 6 months to run and walk 26 miles. It's the 6 months is part of the process, but the marathon, that is the marathon. The marathon is not what happens on that day. The marathon is that whole thing that gets you to it. And then the day that you're there, that is a process that you've got to, it always reminds me about how you can't, especially, and it's why I like running and walking, is because you can't get ahead of your body. Your mind can go ahead of your body and imagine what's down the road, but you cannot get ahead of where your 2 feet are. And that can be liberating, and it can also be very daunting, because there are days in your process of training where it's really inspiring for you to look down the road and see how far, where the finish line is. And, you feel like, oh, I'm going to get there. And it pulls you to it. But there are other days when you're not feeling so great, and looking down the road, it's intimidating, and it makes you feel tired, or you feel demoralized that you can't possibly get there. And on those days, you have to focus on one step at a time, and it goes back and forth. Yeah.
Just one thing. So, and I'm glad you mentioned the finish line, because as a photographer, I don't see a finish line for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I have to say that's fast. Oh my God.
Yeah. But that's the thing about moving from this whole thing about, oh, when I get to this level, or when I get this kind of camera, or when I get this goal orientation, becomes problematic, because it takes us out of the appreciation of the process, and even the conversation about joy. Joy doesn't, you can still have joy without feeling like particularly good about it this moment, or particularly happy about it. But it's when you think about the overall thing that you do, and your joy comes from that. But there are certain parts of everything that we do that are not particularly joyous, but that they are part of the process.
Yes.
And so again, I think a lot of people have a misconception about what what it means to say that you have joy about something, So
well, you're old enough. It's like Joan Rivers used to say in the 70s, I think it was. I'm happy. I'm not happy. I'm happy.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But yeah, that whole thing about, I have to say, one of the things that I've learned now, and one of the reasons why I know photography will be a part of my life and the creative process of visual media, because I also love video, I have to say. But for now, it's photography. This is my third time with an SLR. When I was in my 20s, I had an SLR. It was one of these cheapies. You will know this, Milmon, Finger Hut.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah. When it used to be over the mail, and they
Yeah.
used to mail it to you, and us poor folks would get the cheapest stuff, and it was Finger Hut. It was a
Yeah.
mail order thing. I
Before
can't even
Amazon.
compare it. Yeah, I was going to say, but I can't even compare it to Amazon because it was all
No.
by mail, and so I bought that camera. That lasted for about 2.5, 3 years. Horrible pictures. Never developed my own images. It was a 36 millimeter. It was an SLR with a kit zoom lens. Then in my late 30s, when my 40s, really, every 20 years more or less, I had another camera. It was also an SLR. It was also a cheapie. It was also a zoom lens. That lasted about 3.5, 4 years. But I have to say, what was fascinating compared to now was in those two instances, I thought, ay Dios mío. I thought, oh, I can pick up the camera. Oh, it's a nice camera. It's an SLR. It's got a zoom lens. I'm a photographer. I'm going to be one of my favorites at the time, a Helmut Newton, you know? And no, you have to learn. You have to, it's not just picking up, it's not like walking into the kitchen and saying, oh, here's some ingredients. I'm going to make, a wonderful souffle. Well, if you don't know the process, if you don't know the ingredients, if you don't know how these things taste together and so on. And that's the same thing with photography. And now, because of Tumblr, and I will admit this, and again, I know we've had this conversation before, and because of the way Tumblr allows us to communicate with more than just our images, including Pete's. We all know Pete has horrible taste in music. I explore photography. I learn it, and in some ways, Pete and we teach photography, and a lot of the other folks who post stuff about photography and who do this sort of thing, and the duChemin and there's and Forbes, we teach, and as a teacher, this, and when you teach, you learn. If you the best way to teach is to learn. So I find I find this incredible joy in all of this. That's because of the whole process, the fact that I'm learning, the fact that I finally fucking understands I think how lenses work and what aperture means and how it's important and the light and but I watched like 20 hours of the stuff. But that's the thing. It's exciting, and it's stuff that I don't see. I may have 2 more months to live, and God knows, at my age, that's a pretty good average. But I don't see myself ever. Yeah, this is just it. I feel at home. I do. I feel at home, and not just with the Tumblr verse and all of this, but just even with photography itself. Yeah. It's just yeah. So anyway, that's it. Sorry.
But that's the thing. I mean, what can we make out of that all in terms of nobody cares about photography? Is it really just that? And I think that's a bit too easy to say, well, as long as we ourselves care for our own photography, that should be sufficient, and we learn from that. I don't believe, number one, I don't believe that anyone, call me a cynic, but I don't believe that anyone who publicly shows their art says, I just do it for myself. And at the same time, I say everyone, no matter what they do, just does it for themselves.
Yes.
Because when I put my stuff out there on my blog, of course, I kind of sort of expect feedback. And usually, most people would sort of kind of expect positive feedback, because what do we put out there? We put out there stuff that we've been working on, that maybe we're not proud of it, but we put a lot of time and effort into that.
Mm-hmm.
So we kind of I purposely do not say we hope for. I really think that we kind of expect for some positive feedback, if just for a couple of likes or maybe a comment, maybe a reblog, because
Or even negative. Or
or
even
even
I'll say this, even negative.
no,
Well, not negative, but even somebody who says, "Oh, you know what I mean?" Because I don't want to say the negative.
but I believe that I again, this is my personal view. I don't say this is right, but I personally believe that most of us put stuff out there because they kind of sort of expect to get some kind of acknowledgement that they give
Yeah.
themselves, right?
Yeah.
And I also think that this is important. It is important to have a certain kind of expectation, because that is how a community works. This is how society works. This is how we as human beings work, to support each other, to push each other further. And but it's not that alone. And
Yeah.
I think there's one thing, and that was also a very, very important part of the second video by duChemin, or duChemin, I don't know how to pronounce it. When he,
David.
let's say David, right? When he said, why do we? I think it is a completely legit thing to say, I want to make a blog or an Instagram account and collect as many followers as ever possible. If that is what you do or want to do, why not? But there's nothing bad with that. It is the way you see what you are doing. What you have to accept that doubt that you do this all for photography, but why would you, right? And then it's absolutely legit to say, I post I post every day a photo that I made with a different camera to show my camera collection. Why not? It is your approach. So your approach to photography is different than mine. Mine is, I want to show photos that have a certain meaning for me. But I also do that. Of course I do. I don't check the likes that I get on a post, but of course sometimes I look at my blog and say, oh wow, this post got a lot of likes or reblogs. Well, there's also something you don't get a lot of notes just through likes. The huge amount you get through reblogs, and which photos get reblogged? Photos that everyone wants to have on their blog. So if you post pretty pictures and impressive pictures, it is just kind of I wouldn't say guaranteed, but chances are much bigger than you get that you get more likes, because that is last thing that I want to say about that. We have this community on Tumblr of photographers. And so what is that? Nobody cares about your photos. No, it is not true. Why? Of course, each of us is probably, at least to a degree, interested in what other people think about your own photography or their own photography. With some it's more, with others it's less. But we are also interested in what others do. And that is the point that David makes, that I think was just brilliantly put. That he said, before you have to say something, and that's what we do. We communicate with photography, so we say something. We have to have something to
Something to
say.
say.
And that is the point about for me, why to run a blog. You can only have something to say about something if you know something about that, if you learn about it. So I'm absolutely interested in other people's photography, and that alone is proof that nobody cares for my photography anyway, is a statement that is not true, because I'm not alone, you're not alone. We all are interested in one way or the other in another person's photography, and because we get something out of that as well.
Yeah. Okay. Yes and no. I think yes, we are. I do want to go back to what I thought of the person, the Forbes's friend who made that comment. And I think that person was dealing with the creativity issues, with finding their own place, obviously, and I don't think he said it, but to me, I thought that person has lost the joy, or never had the joy, or approached it for specific reasons and didn't, you know what I mean? That person was dealing with issues, demons, however you want to call it, that we all deal with, but they were feeling defeated at that moment, or maybe they were defeated, or maybe they hadn't found the right place to promote their to promote their images. My friend Dominic, I have to say, he just he's my hero. He posts some of his pictures on Facebook for his friends. He had a Tumblr. He dropped it for a while. He doesn't even have I don't even think a web page anymore. But he is selling his photography, and he just self-published a book. And but he knows but he's found his way of doing this, and he is like me. Sometimes he won't, take pictures for 3 or 4 weeks. Sometimes he'll take, but he's also, in his own way, he's found his process. He has found his process, and I think so yeah, there, and there's nothing wrong with saying nobody cares about my photography if that's how that person feels. I have to say also.
Absolutely, but there's the thing. I mean, the only thing I know about this person is that Forbes said that Ted Forbes thinks he's a great photographer, but doesn't share his photos online because he thinks nobody cares for their photography. And I think that is the point what you said, Fern. Maybe he just hasn't found the way how to do it, and maybe he didn't think about that. And it's just, well, nobody cares for that. Why would I make the effort?
Right.
That's something. Why do I put my photos on my blog? Because it's an easy way to make my photos or make it possible for other people to look at my photos. It's an easy way. Everyone with access to the web can, if they know where they can find my photos, look at my photos. It is, of course you have to, and that's one thing. Maybe that is something that holds people back, especially if we look at YouTube, at comments on YouTube. You will definitely one day, sooner or later, you will stumble over trolls, and you will get nasty comments. And how to deal with that is a different issue. And I think I said it once in a conversation already. The first time I ever put something on the web, that was my exam film that I had to make in film school. One of my exam films was, the idea was to make a video to put on the web, and I put it on the web, and I had one comment on that thing, and one comment only, and that was shit. That one word. So, and I was shocked. I was really shocked, because I wasn't aware. Of course I knew the internet, and of course I was on the internet, but I never experienced trolling or hate comments, or it wasn't really hate comment. Now I'd laugh if someone. It's just, but if the first time, if you're confronted with something like that, you probably will really hesitate to put something out there. Before, I mean, I spent hours and days, days and days, weeks of work on that. I looked at it lately, and it's terrible, a terrible movie, terribly made. So I evolved, and I got better over time. But
we've been on here. So anyway, we've been on here 1 hour and 23 minutes and counting.
And 3/4 of the time you were talking. So fair enough. No, let me just put that, find a conclusion to what I wanted to say. I think the doing something just for ourselves. Yes, I think everything we do more or less for ourselves. Even if we help someone, we help them to feel, as a person who has helped them, to feel better. So everything we do in some way or another will fall back onto us. So we do it at least to an extent, also for ourselves. So that is another thing. I think that it is important to say that there are people out there who will definitely be interested in what you do, because they do the same thing, or they want to do the same thing. They want to connect with you. They want to see what others do. So that's the thing. Finding these people or giving them the possibility to find you, that is, I think that's a really important step, and that's at least why I love Tumblr so much. The possibility that we have on Tumblr to connect, very easily connect to photographers, especially via all of these reblogging sites that promote each other, that are connected, and people can talk with each other through the messaging system and through comments and all of that. So it's a cool thing, and it's an easy way. And that I left Flickr because for me it was just lifeless. And kind of, I posted my photos, and yes, there were a couple of likes, and sometimes I got a comment, and I did the same in return, but I never knew what was behind the photo. So for instance, I'm interested very often in the story behind a photo, and that's what some people on Tumblr do. They write little stories, how a photo was made, or you see on their blogs where they come from, where the photos were made and stuff like that. That's what I rarely see or never really saw on Flickr 500px or even Instagram. It's just filled with tags. And but that's also what is tags, so that we can find stuff. So there are people out there who are interested, and well, sometimes yes, it feels a bit like preaching to the choir, because you mostly are in contact with other photographers, and so you talk about gear and talk about photos, but it's
Or
nevertheless.
Genesis. Anyway, what time is it?
I don't talk about Genesis at all. But
No, no, you just posted about it. Anyway, what time is it?
12:27.
Yes.
Oh, yes. So,
What time do we end?
no, I think Milman, take it away. Say you close. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that this has been a lot of questions, and a lot of really good things have been brought up, and a lot of what, I hear this whole thing about nobody cares about your photography. That's a provocative statement to spur conversation. It's that, of course, somebody cares about your photography. First of all, you do. And then second of all, there are other people, we spend a lot of time bemoaning the social media world and internet, but it has also allowed for a lot of us to learn from each other and to connect with each other. And Pete, like you're saying, if you're going to put your stuff out there, because social media is another way for us to communicate, part of communication is the expectation of a response to what your statement is. And it's also a space that has allowed a lot of us to learn to be vulnerable, publicly vulnerable, with people with whom we will never have share actual geographical space with. And so, from that perspective, yeah, the whole idea that nobody cares, yeah, that's a kind of again, a provocative statement, but and that we can continue to bemoan the social media world, but it has provided a lot of access and a lot of connections and a lot of new ways to share and to learn. And I remember when I was a dancer, I remember somebody said something about, you don't create what you create just for the market, but you also don't create anything that's not marketable, right? And that was speaking about the quality of what we do. We don't just do it for the acclaim, but we also want to make sure that what we do is of a certain quality that we would be feel good about sharing. So yeah, there's a lot here, and it's not just a simple conversation, and it sounds like we're coming to the end of it
So
now. So
I want.
I'm
I
just
had
wait. No, hold on. I'm just going to say one thing, and then I'll let you wrap up and say whatever you have to
I
say.
wanted to see what's in the
Wait.
chat.
Okay. Go ahead. Go to that, and then I'll say what I'm. Go.
Okay, we have Amy Montico wrote great points made in the show and a great topic. This is what makes the Tumblr community so good, throwing these subjects out there for discussion. Thank you guys very much. Thank you, Amy, very much. Camila Ruiz, Malin. I'm so terrible in pronouncing names. Malina, I should wear my glasses. Malinari. I don't know how to pronounce that. Spanish. Great conversation. Interesting, all the points of view. Even Fern killing the 80s. Congrats, guys. Thank you. Well, I don't have
So
anything.
I just want to say one thing. Y'all have just been a part of, like, when Milman and I get together, like we
in
did
the
the last time for
workroom.
lunch. No, whether it's in your office or whether we go to lunch or wherever, because he's on campus and I'm on campus. So, and we see each other all the time. This is exactly what it's like. Except I will admit, Milman, both you and I were a lot more reserved and quiet than we usually are. But
Because we're being watched.
but this is our conversations, and even to the point of, like, because when we were at lunch the last time, you were like, oh, I only have an hour, and it turned into, like, what was it, almost over 2 hours, I think it was, and you were
Probably.
like, oh shit, I
I
have
gotta
to get out of
go.
here. Yeah, or I've got to go because I'm at work and all this stuff, and so you have just witnessed why I so enjoy being in Milman's presence. I mean, he's just brilliant, and he's also willing to listen, while at the same time getting all excited about what he's talking about. So yes, I thank you so very much for joining us. And Pete, that's it. I have nothing else to say. If any of you want to say something.
Thanks for the invitation, both of you. I want to say I appreciate it tremendously.
And I want to say thank you to both of you. It was for me, it was kind of a bit of a surprise. Fern mentioned that you might want to join, and then he said no, you can't. And then, like 10 minutes before the show, and I was really happy and that you were there. And really, thank you so very much for being on the show. And I hope this won't be the last time. I hope we will see you again.
Yeah, I would love it.
Oh, we would love to have you on the show again, definitely. Thank you all out there for watching. I think this was really, as I started, really a packed and very charged show. A lot of things, probably not really consistent, but I think that's not what this type of conversation is. Nobody expects that anyway. And so we're not producing a show. It's just really talking. So again, I don't say it often enough. If you want to be part of this, if you want to talk with us, we can have like, I think up to 9 people on a Tumblr on a
Oh, wow.
Hangouts chats video chat that we can stream to YouTube. So in case you want to be part of this, I know not everyone is comfortable being on video. So if you're not comfortable being on video, only want to be on audio, this is no problem either. So just message either Fern or me, and we'd love to have you on the show. And it doesn't matter if you consider yourself to be an experienced photographer or not. We will talk about photography. We'll talk about approaches. So there is no need to these are conversations and nothing more, nothing less. So I think that's enough. I guess I will finish my evening with listening to Genesis, which was not the 80s, by the way. There were just a couple of albums. But okay, so I will listen to the Lambdas on Broadway, which was 1974, I guess. So,
Broadway musical? Ew.
not Broadway musical. But that happens if you're 80. You're you're
Oh,
hearing
I heard Broadway and I immediately thought musical. Oh.
down on Broadway. So okay, enough BS for that. Thank you.
I want to say I want to suggest one thing. We invite people to join us in the conversation. Blah blah blah. We can have up to 10. Why don't we, in our next In Conversation, when we post it on Tumblr, include the Hangout link, and that way, if they want to join us, boom.
Great idea. Let's try that. We will do that the next time. We will just post, because for those of you who do not know how this works, I start make the whole stuff, the whole set everything up, and then I'll just send Fern a link that he opens in a browser. The browser, if it's Google Chrome, I think everything is already in there.
Yes.
So there's no need to change anything, and other browsers need to be compatible with that. So maybe you have to download a plugin or something. To my knowledge, Firefox doesn't work anymore, but a lot of other browsers do. So that's what this does. You just have to click on the link, and then you have to confirm that you want to join this conversation, and then you're live with us. And of course, we can throw you out. We won't do that, of course. But I can mute you, but I will only mute Fern, of course. So that we will try that next time. So surprise guests, maybe next time on the show. Thank you all for watching. Have a great weekend. Until, well, I think we will manage to make another conversation in December. Maybe not, because Christmas and all of that. But in case we will be able to make a conversation in December, I will wear that one. That just
Bah humbug.
Thank you all. Bye bye.